Hello, fifth grade. So, today we're going to be reading the dog newspaper from 5 pages a day. Our reading job today is going to be to describe how a narrator or speaker's point of view influences how events are described. The narrator is the person telling the story. The point of view is the narrator's particular way of thinking about something in the story. Influence, to have an influence on an event means to have an effect on what happens. And in this case, it's going to be an effect on how they describe what happens. So I need you to think of this strategy that I'm calling influencers like Facebook or like Instagram or something like that, some sort of social media. Except I need you to think of it as the characters having an account on social media. You need to think about what the character likes, what they feel, and what they think about. Because the way that they think and feel and what they like is going to influence how they describe events. So you may think broccoli is disgusting, right? You would not like it. You do not like it. That influences how you would describe broccoli. You would say it's gross, disgusting, mushy, tastes like I don't know what, right? But if you in fact love broccoli, you will describe broccoli in a different way. You will say, man, broccoli is delicious. It's so crispy and delightful. You take it and it's crunchy. You have seasoning. Do you see how what I feel about broccoli changes how I describe it? That same thing is what we're going to bring into our reading life. You need to be thinking about what the narrator or main character likes, what they don't like, what they feel, and what they think about different topics, because that's going to influence how they describe events. So as a reader, you're going to need to think about all the descriptive words that you know, because the author, narrator, might say them, okay? Interesting, amazing, nice, great, good, funny, bad, small, important. You can come back to this if you need this slide later in your when you get to your questions and other things that you need to think about. I began my writing career at the age of 10 when I wrote and sold the dog newspaper. This weekly publication, which cost 5 cents a copy, reported on the local dogs. I interviewed every neighbor who had a dog. What exciting things has your dog done? I asked. People responded. All Fluffy does is eat, sleep, and bark at the mailman. Or, Max's only excitement is his daily walk on the lease. Such answers did not lead to important news stories. So already I'm thinking about what the character likes, feels, thinks. The narrator's point of view here is that dogs are exciting. And I learned that in the first and second paragraph. He writes reports on local dogs, so he obviously thinks there's something interesting about them. And he asks his neighbors what exciting things their dog do. So when his neighbors don't tell him exciting things, his description of this event is that they didn't have any important news for him to write about. I didn't give up. If your dog could talk, I asked, what do you think he would say? Feed me was the most common answer, followed by let's play. What could a writer do with such boring material? Your turn to think. What do you find out about the narrator's personality on this page? How does the narrator describe events on this page, and why does he describe them like that? Think about it. Tell somebody in your house. Say it out loud. The solution sat at my feet, wagging his tail. The first issue of the dog newspaper featured my dog, BJ, on the entire front page. Although his life at the time was as uneventful as the lives of the other neighborhood dogs, BJ had a unique background. So here I'm thinking about how the narrator's describing events, and he describes the neighbor's dog's lives as uneventful. However, he describes his own dog's background as unique. Uncle Bill, my mother's younger brother, was a soldier in the U.S. Army World War II. While in Germany, his unit went into a town that had recently been bombed. As they searched for the survivors in a destroyed building, they came across a mother dog and her litter of puppies. The mother dog was dead. So were all the puppies except one. The soldiers, who had seen far too much of death and destruction, carefully lifted the little brown dog from his littermates. One soldier tucked the puppy inside his jacket to keep him warm. The men fed him from their own food supplies, shared water from their canteens, and decided to keep him as the company mascot. From then on, wherever Uncle Bill and his comrades went, the dog went too. They named him BJ because he was a big job to take care of, especially when they were fighting a war. BJ grew bigger and stronger as he traveled with the soldiers, tagging along on every mission and somehow surviving even when the men were too busy to pay attention to him. As the soldiers fought to protect the free world, BJ did his duty too. He slept with them in foxholes. He trudged long miles across burned and barren land. He helped search rubble for signs of life. Most of all, he offered love and laughter to a group of lonely, weary men who were far from home. So now it's your turn to think. The narrator calls BJ's background unique, but the neighborhood dogs as uneventful. After reading this part of the story, why does the narrator describe the neighbor dogs' lives as uneventful? Okay, time to type your answer. You'll need to open your Word document and type your answers below each question. 1. In the beginning of the story, what is the narrator's point of view about dogs? How does it affect the way the narrator describes what the dogs do? 2. What is the narrator's point of view about BJ? 3. How does the narrator's point of view about BJ influence how the events are described in paragraph 1 on page 545?